What is up, everybody? Hoang Zero here, and today I bring you some gameplay footage of Darkknightmon versus Beelzemon. Darkknightmon is going to be piloted by me on the right side, and then one of my friends is piloting Beelzemon on the left. And starting us off, we did already proceed with Mulligan. I'm going to go ahead and evolve into that Shumon, and then at this point, I'm really contemplating my options. I have a lot of turn 1 viable plays. If I remember correctly, I was looking at Memory Boost, I was looking at Pride, I was looking at Nene as well. And I actually ended up opting for the Pride boost, because the reason why I opted for Pride is because I wanted to establish a body really early on while simultaneously trying to enable myself to gain that memory in the future. And why the body was so important was because if I found something along the lines of like Mighty Axe, then I'm able to facilitate getting additional pieces in my hand plus the extra memory. And so you could say, oh, why don't you just memory boost if that's the situation? And that's totally valid, but at this point, I really wanted to get that extra body just so I can start threatening a little bit more earlier on. But the key to this matchup really is just to force your opponent to deck out. And so having threats on board makes it so your opponent has to expend resources to try and remove your threats. And so if it's not an option, it's going to be some kind of effect that most likely is tied to milling. So that was kind of like the idea here. Being at 4 is really awkward here though, because if he goes 2 cost Evo and then he evolves for 3, then he's able to choke me at 1, but if that were the case, then I would be able to effectively choke him at 2. Which I know it's Beelzemon, so it's not really saying much, but also if he were to go for that play, he would specifically need Balmon from BT10 in order to not whiff on his Wind Digivolving effect, so I felt pretty confident in that situation. So here I do go ahead swinging the Chumon, and by swinging in the Chumon, I am able to proc the Pagumon, and if I remember correctly, I did hit the Pagumon. Here I go, pop my boost, pop the Nene, and then establishing Nene is very important early on into this matchup. I end up grabbing the Deadly Axemon because I just need pieces for Digicrossing. My opponent established the Wizardmon in his back area, plus the Impmon on board. If you pop the Impmon, it is a mill 3, and you know, for most matchups, like, oh man, he's getting like a free mill 3, it's really powerful. But in my case, I'm just like, hell yeah, dude, like, go ahead, mill 3, be my guest. So immediately I'm gonna go ahead Digicross into Mighty Axe. Mighty Axe, if you use both materials to Digicross, it does go ahead and pop Digimon with a play cost of 4 or lower, I believe, and so we're gonna go ahead and pop that Impmon. Really effective here. So yeah, he does end up getting the Death Slinger, but that actually is not too shabby for me. And yes, do mind Mighty Axe is a 2 cost, so we end up passing to 2, and then Slinger he goes to 3. But only 1 Slinger, not the worst outcome that could have happened, and we do have our Mighty Axe established. Mighty Axe is one of the only, it is actually the only level 4 in this deck with blocker from Nene, because it has Twilight Armor. The other level 4s do not, because they were from the Adventure 2020 Darkknightmon, which is not Twilight Army, so that's why. And here, our game plan is literally just to stall out the game as much as we possibly can. We don't want our opponent to play whatsoever, more or less. So yeah, he's going to go ahead, waste a Slinger, get rid of our Mighty Axe. Mighty Axe, unfortunately, does not float, but I'm here just to park my dump truck and just make it so he can literally never break through my security. So as you notice, we're going to go ahead and set up the Memory Boost, go to 1, and Memory Boost, at this point, we don't have a rookie in our hand, and we do reveal 3 rookies, but at this point, I'm really heavily contemplating. I ended up grabbing the Darkknightmon. The reason why we go ahead and grab the Darkknightmon is because the rookie is nice, you know, like cycling is cool, but the name of our game is just stalling out our opponent, and Darkknightmon is the card that we need in order to do that. And so I do have 1 Darkknightmon in my hand, which you can kind of get a little bit of a glimpse in my hand if you look at that, but the reason why I grab a second one is because if I go for the first one and then it gets popped, and then I will end up needing that second one to keep playing the game. Mighty Axe does fortunately hit a Darkknightmon X, so we're able to grab that, but we do mill 2 really powerful options. But current state of the game, we do have a Mem Boost set up. Our opponent is a little slow on the setup, but that's totally okay. Goes ahead and pops the Barrage, grabs back the Balmon, and so he has the opportunity to evolve into the Balmon if he chooses to. He does go ahead, goes to 0. And yeah, so this Balmon specifically is when attacking, then you can mill 3. So this forces him into a really awkward position, because either he swings into my security and risks losing his Balmon, and note that he does not currently have a Beelzemon in his stack, so this is kind of a bit of a risky swing, so he does have to hit it. He goes ahead and uses Wizardmon's ESS, stacks the EX2 Imp, so that means he's guaranteed to mill an additional 3, hits the Slinger, hits a Wizard, so that's a +2 memory, so we have really strong mills right there. And he has a couple other mills to resolve, so yep, goes ahead, resolves another mill 2, which then hits another EX2 Imp, so another mill 3, hits another Wizard, another memory gain, and then he still has Balmon's mill 3, so yeah, just that alone fills up almost its entire trash, but he does not hit a Beelzemon, so If this Balmon were to go down, there would be no floating, and I have a choice. So I can choose to risk it in security, or I can just block it out with my Mighty Axemon. And so if I block with my Mighty Axemon, yeah, I save myself from the chip, but I think it's really important to try and risk him hitting the security and then losing his stack, because if he does, then he just loses so much tempo. So I make the risk, and unfortunately we only hit Nene, and Nene has a little bit of a redundancy issue, just because she's not a tamer that really gains value if you have multiple on your board. You only need the one, so hitting that Nene is very much, it's very mid. Yeah, we get an extra card in our hand, but we grab the Darkknightmon X, which we already have, goes into the Beelzemon. Beelzemon will unfortunately be able to pop our Mighty Axe because he does have 10 cards at minimum in his trash, so yeah, loses our Mighty Axe, but we're totally okay with this position, just because, like I said, the name of our game is just stalling our opponent, so we really don't care about the fact that we just lost our body, because what matters the most is that we have the Digicross. And so yeah, he is able to resolve the Impmon. He does not hit a target, which, you know, totally fine. And you really don't care about hitting the target too much on this Impmon, just because you do have that Barrage, so it more or less can grab whatever you need. But yeah, so now it is our turn. We are, or no, I believe we're at 0 actually, yeah. So it is still actually his turn. So really awkward. So he's trying to look for a way to pass the turn efficiently. And from our position, I just have to think about, like, how are we able to, you know, not end up getting, like, clobbered, right? Like, how do we slow the state of the game? And so a really fantastic way to go about it, if you are the Darkknightmon player, is if you have the floaters. So when Darkknightmon X is popped, it allows you to go ahead and summon a Darkknightmon from your trash. And then when you go ahead and that pops, you get a float into another body. He goes and ends up passing turn on the Beelzemon X with only 18 cards in trash. This only burns 1. Mostly likely he just didn't want to pass me too much memory, which totally fine with. I think it's probably the best case scenario for me, just because I know the slower he plays, the better for me. Pop my memory boost, go ahead and go to 3. And now we have the ability to choke on the Darkknightmon. And so using Darkknightmon, if I were to Digicross with 2 pieces, I can de-Digivolve one of his Digimon, and then I can go ahead and pop 5 cost or less. I go ahead and actually target the Impmon X, and so the reason why is because if I were to Digivolve his Beelzemon X, that does give him an avenue to use the Beelzemon X again, and so I don't want him to get a free burn. So instead, I target the Impmon, and yes, it's a level 3, so I know you can't Digivolve it any further, but that's totally fine. We're just going to waste the Digivolve and guarantee the pops. That way, he's forced to stay on the Beelzemon X, which is, you know, it's pretty awkward, and he gets choked at 1. And so at this point, the only way he's able to extend off this Beelzemon X is to use that blast mode. Otherwise, yeah, he could swing it to get a couple of mills off, but at this point, we're really like just being chilling. And apologies for the shaking. Elbows were on the table. There were a couple of people actually playing at this table, so, you know, apologies for that. And then, you know, it is our turn now. We are at 1 at the current moment. And so we have a lot of different avenues to play, and so I believe we go here actually looking for the Darkknightmon play potentially. Oh no, we I don't want to go for the Darkknightmon play here, because if we go for the Darkknightmon play, it's kind of mid, to be honest, because it ends up passing turn actually, which is totally fine. So instead I go for the Congo, and so me going for Congo is just trying to delay his Wizardmon stack from coming out in the raising and then just like going for the swing. I'm really just trying to buy myself some additional time here. We go for the Darkknightmon X now. Darkknightmon X is going to go ahead past 2, but thanks to his ability, I'm able to pop my own Nene and then gain an additional 2 memory, so we can continue extending our play. I dropped the card, unfortunately. Yeah, so digging through our trash, trying to see what we can grab, because Darkknightmon's ability allows you to grab a purple or black Digimon, except for Darkknightmon X added back to your hand. We end up grabbing back the Darkknightmon. Cycles into the Dorumon, really great stuff right here. And now we're just looking for a efficient way to pass turn and just make it really awkward for our opponent. There is a world where last turn we would have been able to actually evolve into the Darkknightmon X and then choke on 1, but I think with the Congo we were able to slow him down a lot harder, because otherwise he would have been able to bring out that Wizardmon and then you know, swing it to get some additional mills off and whatnot, and just trying to slow him down as much as possible is really the key here. And so we established that Skull Knightmon in the back, Skull Knightmon for 2, and at this point our back row stack is kind of just fodder. He goes ahead and evolves into the EX2, not EX2, the starter deck Beelzemon. With the Mill 4, he does hit double Barrage, which is really, really scary because when you're getting into these late game situations, that does mean you just have more resources in general. And he doesn't pass turn either because thanks to the memory gain, he does end up gaining enough memory to retain his turn. So this is a very, very awkward position to be in my case because both of his stacks actually have DP gain thanks to the EX2 imp. So both of his stacks will actually swing over me. But what's really, really great here is with the Darkknightmon X, what can happen is that when it's popped, it floats, goes into Darkknightmon. The Darkknightmon can Digicross and then de-Digivolve one of his stacks. And then from there, it's really hard and difficult to actually break through. And so, yeah, he's going to go ahead, he swings his starter deck, Beelzemon, knowing that it's probably going to get de-Digivolved anyway. He's going to go ahead and resolve all of his mills, and there's, I believe there's 4 mills associated with this. Yes, so there's 4 mills. Oh no, only the 2 mills. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'll block out with the Darkknightmon X that floats into the Darkknightmon. And then with that, I'm going to use Digicross using Skull Knightmon and Cavalier mode, de-Digivolves that Beelzemon. I really don't want to de-Digivolve his X antibody because then that does give him an avenue in order to actually proc it again. And so I just want to get rid of the 6 on his other 6 on his boards. That way, if he wants to use the X antibody, he will have to actually de-Digivolve. He will have to Digivolve up into the 4, I mean into the 6, and then Digivolve it once again. So just making it as awkward as I possibly can. He's currently 0 cards in deck because of this. And yeah, so if he has no way to push for a game, it essentially is mine because then it goes to me, I pass turn, and with 0 cards left in deck, he has no way to actually push. And so this is like really very much so the beauty of Darkknightmon, because let's hypothetically say that he hit like a much more efficient stack, right? Let's say he had a cluster. If he had the cluster and then he pops the Darkknightmon and then okay. So if he has the cluster, he would end up passing the turn. He would need the X antibody in order to get all that value off. But yeah, being at 0 memory really really makes it so he can't get a lot of value. Because if he goes into the Beelzemon X to try and proc the cluster, it would automatically pass the turn. So yeah, that ends up being game because he just doesn't have any more cards left in deck. It's, yeah, he has to forfeit there. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight in order to how to win this matchup. It's really just make as big of a wall as you possibly can and wait for your opponent to deck out. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace.